Hello and welcome to this taste challenge. I have two 80 proof Kentucky sour mash bourbon whiskeys. This is G&W, Gooderham and Worts from Selected Reserves. In other words, it's sourced bourbon. They buy this stuff under contract. Well, I've read that they get it on auction or whatever. But anyway, it's private stock. It's Kentucky sour mash bourbon whiskey. It's straight whiskey, so there's no coloring or flavoring at it. It's bottled in New Jersey by Laird Company. The company G&W was established in Canada, Gooderham and Worts, in 1869. Now, I don't know when their bourbon came out. The internet is claiming it was 1933, when Prohibition ended. And that makes sense, but I really don't know. I know the company goes to 1869. They're no longer in business. One of those companies got sold. Then somebody else picked it up, and then this and that. And now Laird got a hold of it, got a hold of the brand. All the facilities are gone or turned into something else. There's G&W. There's an extra aged, 5-year aged, higher proof version from Laird Company. But I got this liter bottle at a liquor store in New Orleans. They're out of business. They went out of business in May of this year, but they had it for $8 years before they went out of business. They just had it ran a special $8 for a liter of straight bourbon, Kentucky sour mash straight bourbon. I said, I'll buy it. I don't know anything about it, but I'll pick it up. Herbie says, good morning. Good morning to you, Herbie in India. Now, this is Ezra Brooks. Now, Ezra Brooks, I was saying in the previous videos how easy it was to get at Walmart. And I went to Walmart yesterday and I went to the liquor section. They didn't have a single Ezra Brooks, I think, except for the bourbon cream. I said, well, I was just talking about how easy it was to get at Walmart, and they didn't have any. They had Evan Williams, but and Jim Beam. But Walmart does rotate things in and out a lot, so they'll have something and then they'll get rid of it. Now, did they drop it for a low price when they got rid of it? They may have. I did. It could have been the week where I didn't pass by that section and they might have sold it for $10. I do not know. I wish I had seen that, but oh well. Can't worry about it all. You can't worry about all of it, and you can't worry about it at all, really. And I'm not worried about it. Okay, so there's that liter bottle. It is an old brand, like I said. I didn't say it was a popular brand. I just say it was old. I've only seen it at that one store, and I never saw it again. So it might be common in New Jersey, but I can assure you it's not common here. Now, Ezra Brooks, yeah, so like I said, I was talking about how common it was, and then I go back to Walmart yesterday and they didn't have a single bottle. So I was, weird. And they had a whole end cap of it, but they could have shipped it to us a different store or something. I don't know. I don't know the answer. The weird thing about this bottle, this is a 2015 bottle. So this bottle's 10 years old. I don't think the G&W is really that old. No age statement, so we know it's at least 4 years. But if you look at the website link below, all they do is give you a list, product specifications. And they say that this is sold only at export. It's produced in Kentucky, but it's sold as an export to mainly Australia, apparently. 7 generations, and I don't think this is that old. It's only from 1957, but these companies make all kind of claims that aren't really necessarily accurate. It could be 7 generations of somebody making something, but it may not really relate to that brand. Okay, now I noticed that the Ezra Brooks is much lighter. It's amber, and this one is copper. So the G&W is much darker. Probably use a darker char level, a heavier char level, because even though it's a younger product. Isn't that something? Show you the website. The website's all screwed up. Dentley, 3 who's going to win? I'm wondering that too, because I haven't been able to tell Ezra Brooks from any other yet. It tastes like the rest. Okay, so here's the website. G&W Private Stock, 80 proof, a Kentucky sour mash bourbon aged 4 years. That's really strange because they're showing a bottle like I have that says 3. Big mistake. G&W feels a malty biscuitiness, and some cracking of toasted fig seeds, followed by some sweet sugar notes throughout the finish. I watch videos. I've been watching a lot of Latin American videos and Portuguese videos, and they got so many descriptors for these whiskeys. They'll run 10 minutes talking about cherries in it, winter wheat. And I'm like, I don't know how they pick up all this stuff. And I believe they're being honest. I hope they're not just making it, but I can't do that. I cannot pick all that out. So big glaring problem on the website. They're claiming it's 4-year age, but the bottle shows 3 years. Then they got key highlights. One highlight is nothing. So what does that mean? It tastes like nothing. Age 4 years. That's not correct. Toasted fig, sweet sugar notes, malty biscuitiness. So whoever did this website definitely needs to check it out and refer back to it and fix the problems. You could tell they took the photo with one of those, you can see the reflection in the background of the bottle, and one of those filters and all, light filters with a window in the background. Well, that's fine, but not good, Laird. And look, I see mistakes from Crown Royal. I see mistakes from Anheuser-Busch on their websites. And it's really, because it makes you think, right? If their website is screwed up and there's like some problems with the details, what's happening with the brewing? Is that going on with brewing or distilling? Is there a lack of detail or attention to detail? It doesn't look good. Let's say it like that. It does not look good. It's not a good. Now, when I get these wrong, does it look good? No. I did taste challenges with Ezra Brooks so far, and I've been doing terrible, getting it wrong. It's not a good look, but I've made challenges in the video saying, well, you do it. You make a video and tell them apart, because I just think it's tough. I think it's really tough. When you got sour mash, they're 80 or 83 86 proof, 80 or 86 proof. They're aged 3-4 years. They're all from Kentucky. Yeah, different companies, but now with G&W, it could be Ezra Brooks. You know what I mean? It could be coming from Luxco because, like I said, selected stocks. Could it, in fact, be different Kentucky bourbons from different companies blended together and then sent to New Jersey and bottled? That's possible. That would not invalidate it as straight. If you read your regulations, it says that you can blend different straight bourbons to make the final product or different whiskeys, let's call it, not bourbons, different straight whiskeys, corn, has to be mostly corn, rye whiskey, wheat whiskey, barley whiskey, single malt barley whiskey, as they call it in Scotland. My nose is itching. The only rule on the thing is it has to all be from the same state. Obviously, if it's Kentucky bourbon, it has to be from Kentucky. Now you can do it from different states, just wouldn't be straight bourbon. Okay, it would be called just bourbon. You can blend different whiskeys from various states. That's not an issue, as long as it's at least 51% corn and you age it in charred new. Remember that, can't be a used barrel. New charred oak barrels, fine. It's bourbon, but it wouldn't be straight bourbon. And if there's any whiskey from out of Kentucky, it wouldn't be called Kentucky whiskey. But these are both called Kentucky whiskey, so we know they're all from Kentucky. Whether they're all from the same distillery, that's a different question. Now, if you get bottle and bond, that's different because that's all from a single bonded distillery. That's much more stringent regulation. Okay, let's go with the aroma. But they're saying on the bottle it's a selected stocks. So what are they doing? There's thousands and thousands of barrels of bourbon in Kentucky aging. A lot of it is just available for purchase. And you can bottle it and put your label on it. In Scotland, they call that independent bottling. There are companies in Scotland who only do independent bottling. They don't produce anything. They just buy stocks of whiskey and they bottle them, or maybe even pay to have them bottled after blending naturally. And then, or if it's single malt, they wouldn't have grain whiskey, but then they sell it. And the company operates from an office, you see. But they'll send people out to select the stocks and bid on it. And if they make the contract, they'll buy it. And that's what G&W is doing. To say Laird Company. But G&W, Gooderham and Works, years ago, they had their own distilleries and whatnot. But that the industry gets consolidated, and you start having less distilleries. Probably more efficient that way, but that is the way it works. Same thing with beer. Got a lot of companies making other people's beer. Same thing. Smells like corn. Could be any bourbon in the world. Identical. Is there a lot of things happening in aroma here? No. You say, "Oh man, I love an aromatic bourbon." Yeah, well, these are not the ones to pick. These are not ones to pick. Aromatic. Well, there's some aroma, but they're not what you would call aromatic. The price for the Ezra Brooks, $10.99. And to my knowledge, it's still $10.99 at that store, International Market. And they had a lot of it last time I checked. A lot of it, and it was not moving. Just like they had those 30-year-old bottles. Well, I think 29-year-old bottles of early times. And then I realized they were liter bottles for $10.99. True. I don't think anybody but me bought a bottle in a year. But that's all right. They just stuck them on the shelf. International Market is never going to pull them. They'll leave them there to the end of the world. And it's sitting right next to the brand new bottles of early times. Different product. Appears to be a different product. Altered since Sazerac bought it, but haven't tasted either one, so I can't comment on that. All right. Here we go. It's fun to track down these. Oh, well, I shouldn't use the term track down because I wasn't tracking them. Let me rephrase that. It's fun to run across these, stumble upon these relics. I don't look for them. I just go shopping. I'm like, look at this. Like they got old bottles of Irish whiskey. Michael Collins. I don't think that's still produced. There is a current Michael Collins. Yes. I think it's called The Politician or something, or something like that. But that's a different one. It's using the name. Sazerac bought the rights to it. Good bourbon. Get the corn kernels, like that corn nuts, barrel char. Get that little sourdough bagel. Yeah, there's fruit, like you could say, like that fruitcake fruit. It's like freeze dried or something. I don't know how they dehydrate it and they put it in the Mylar bags. I see that at the store all the time. People make their own fruitcake, but I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh yes, I can tell. Oh, that's cranberry. Yep, there it is. Clearly, no, I can't do it. I'm not going to pretend like I can." Seems lighter here. Barrel char, yes. More bagel. A lot of fruit though, even banana. Banana. I like bananas. They're both medium bodied and they finish dry. Typical bourbon flavor, typical liquor flavor, I find. Um, Rye whiskey in here, yeah, I think so. A little mintiness. Wheat doesn't seem to be the case. Malted barley, that's probably giving it some of the bread flavor, like white bread, but barley bread. Which one would I buy? I'd buy which one was cheaper, which in this case was G&W because it was $8 for the liter. Not a normal price, but I found it for that. So either one of these something to run down? No. Anything to look for, search for? No way. Anything to turn away from? Good stuff. Solid. Good bourbon. Could they rival Jim Beam or Jack Daniels, things like that? Oh, yes, I believe so. They're on par with those. And you say, well, that's just regular old run-of-the-mill bourbon. And that's exactly what these are. But to see someone taste these and talk about how terrible they would be, I can't see that. Well, I didn't find any. Honestly, I didn't find any video reviews for the Ezra Brooks 80 proof. Nothing. Which makes sense considering I've only seen it at one store in my life. So now I'm not talking about the current 99 proof or the previous 90 proof. Oh, I mean, they might have dozens of video reviews for those, but I've never purchased those products, so I didn't even bother to look up the reviews. But I would think yes, it's probably very common. It's a mystery to me. Did I find any G&W bourbon reviews? I think I might have found one or two. Wasn't a lot happening with it. I don't even think I found it listed on the distiller.com. That's how obscure these are. Well, especially the G&W. So I have my eyes closed because if I see the darker product, I'm gonna know what it is. So I don't want to do that. Do I have a preference? It's hard to say. I don't think I do. Nice products, but like I said, most people in the world could not care less. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I don't care about those products. Anybody ever heard of it? I get it. But they do exist, at least from history. Well, no, they both still exist. Current, and if you go to Australia, all right, in a smaller bottle, I might add. If you go to Australia, you only get 70 centiliters, not 75 centiliters like I got. So that would not make me very happy. And I know Australia, they're not going to be selling it for $10.99. I'm sure the price is outrageous. And Australians tell me all the time, our liquor and beer prices are outrageous. And some of them will even joke with me and they'll say, yes, because we have to pay for all of our free health care. I said, exactly. It's free, all right. Yeah, of course it's not costing the government anything. They don't have money. The government doesn't have a job. In Australia, the government doesn't have a job. The government doesn't produce things. They're a consumer. So where you say, well, how do they give you free health care if they don't have any money? Easy. They get it from you. That's what baffles some people. They think it's magic. They believe in magic. A lot of these people say, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in superstition like you Christians. I'm for socialism. I said, well, you must believe in magic because you said you do believe in superstition because you said the government pays for it. And I said, no, they don't have any money. They don't have a job. You paying for it. It's not coming from thin air. If you create money from thin air, fine. Now you have the problem we have in America since 2021, inflation. Inflation is not higher prices. Higher prices are a result of inflation. That's a symptom. You're confusing symptom with cause. The cause is printing money without any backing, or maybe like say years ago it was $1 equaled this many ounces of silver, but you want to have more money, so you say, okay, now $2 will equal that same amount. Well, now it's going to take you twice as much to buy the same amount. This is science. This is not or mathematics. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. Okay. You are paying for your own free services. Okay. Which would disqualify the word free from the conversation. But anyway, I'm not saying that to preach to you or raise hackles of people. I'm just saying this is a fact. Like the bourbon is a fact. It must be 51% corn. It's not an opinion. It's a reality. We were doing a video one time. Okay, let me call it first. Good stuff. I would give this an A. I'm telling you right now, I'll give it an A, a 9.3 out of 10. Now that sounds crazy, but I think it's that most excellent. It's a most excellent product. So well made. I'll tell you what, it's hard to find a bad bourbon in America. If you know of any, let me know. I'd like to find out. Now, I wasn't too thrilled with that copper pot still, that thing from Will It. And it's in a beautiful bottle, but the flavor was kind of off. But I only had 50 milliliter or 100 milliliter bottle. My daughter gave it to me as a little gift. But I've watched so many videos for that product, and people say the same thing. This stuff's not that good. But that's an outlier. Pretty bottle, and the stuff inside is not too hot. I didn't make it. That's not my problem. But generally, bourbon, it's a sure shot winner. Canadian whiskey, that's a little more of a risk factor involved. An American blended whiskey, that's a red alert. High risk factor. Well, but not monetarily, because you're not going to lay out too much yayo for it unless you get in those little craft style American blended whiskeys, which I haven't tried, so I can't comment on them. But I see people buying it, so they must be, you would assume, good. This one has a deeper char note, which I prefer because I like the char and I like the smoke, and I like that. That appeals to me, may not to you. Everybody's got different tastes. People have different tastes in things. They have different preferences. That's an opinion. A preference is sort of like an opinion in a sense, because it's applicable to you. But it's really just a preference. An opinion is your feeling about something, or what you think is right or wrong about something. But a lot of times I think people confuse fact with opinion. Okay, I think this is the G&W. And I think it's a little better. I'm going to go with a 9.4 on it. I got it right, thankfully. Did G&W, they're both sugary though. Boy, bourbon is like sugar water to me. Does G&W stand out a little more than your average bourbon? Yes, I do believe. You said, but it's select stock. I know. But I think they're being careful in their selection. What I mean is I think they're looking for certain characteristics, such as the charcoal, specifically the charred oak. And I think they're getting it. I'm sure they're going to contact their supplier and say, look, we want a lot of char and so forth. And they'll give them different other attributes. And they'll look through their files and say, well, oh yes, we definitely have something that will fit that. That's not even a problem. And then they'll come out there, they'll sit down, have a session, taste. Oh, these are and they'll use a template. And these are the ones that fit inside that circle. The representative of the company say, yep, we have a lot of barrels of that. In fact, we can pretty much supply you with a virtually endless supply of it, and you can bottle it all year long. It's a low volume product. You're telling me anyway, you don't sell that much of it, and we won't run out. Yeah, that's not an issue. We can have that as a continuous stream. We'll lock in those barrel numbers. Of course, you want to taste it year to year, make sure it's staying correct, and they do it, and they did it, and it's working. So is independent bottling necessarily meaning you're going to get a bad product or an inferior product? No, I don't believe so. Sometimes, but that could be for not stuff that's home produced, in their own company. So I would not shy away from independent bottled products, or as we call it in America, sourced whiskey. Of course, everybody is angry when a company tries to play games, try to act like they make it, and try to pawn it off as their own product when you can track it down. And I think they had some companies got in trouble with that. They got caught out, had to pay some fines. They were not making it, and they tried to make it appear that's a fraud, and that's committing fraud. But if the bottle says distilled in Indiana, that's not fraud. The judge is going to tell you, did you read the label? I don't concern myself with those kind of things. Case dismissed. You're out. You pay the court costs. Because that's the general attitude of the U.S. courts. You read the label. Don't nag us with these so-called torts, like you got damaged, but you didn't bother reading the label. Like somebody claiming, oh, Blue Moon cheated me because I thought it was a craft beer and I found out it was owned by Coors. No judge with any kind of competence is going to entertain that. They're going to say, hold on a minute. You could very easily look at the website and it will show you it's made by Molson Coors. And beyond that, it's common knowledge that it's made by Molson Coors. It's not a mystery. And they're going to use that terminology in their court cases. It's common knowledge that it's made by a major company. Any reasonable person would know this. That's what they're going to use. Okay. Do people still file frivolous lawsuits? Of course, all day long. But I don't know. I don't think too many of them succeed. Okay. Oh yeah, this is better. It's better. I'm telling you this. So in this case, I would pay a little bit more for the G&W, but in my case, well, particularly, I had to pay less. I actually paid less. I got a whole liter for $8, and this was $10.99 for the 750. So it's amazing some of the things I find, But that thing about the Jack Daniels, talking about opinion and fact. We did a video. It's not posted anymore. I should have kept it, really. But one guy was saying, well, I used to work as a bartender. Okay. He said, and the customers, their impression was that it was a Tennessee whiskey and not a bourbon. I don't know if he did a study of this. I doubt it. Well, a customer's impression is not the law. The law is the law. The reality is the law, not your impression. All right. By law, legally, we're speaking about legal terms now, objective reality. Legally, Jack Daniels is a bourbon. All right. That's not my opinion. You see, that's not open to this. It's not open to debate. Now, some people are going to run up here and talk about, well, it's a Tennessee whiskey. No one ever disputed that. It's made in Tennessee. It's a Tennessee whiskey. That's not an argument. Tennessee whiskeys follow the bourbon protocol. This is reality. They simply choose to market themselves as Tennessee whiskey, which is fine. It's not a legal term. Only in Tennessee is it a legal term. In the U.S. government's eyes, in the eyes of the world, trade agreements between Canada, that's pending, and the rest of the world, it's bourbon, okay? There's no legal definition of Tennessee whiskey for international trade or U.S. government classification of whiskey. It does not exist. The term does not exist, except in the case that if you call something a state-specific product, it must come from the state. Okay, so if you say, well, this is a Florida whiskey, okay, it has to be produced in Florida. Not just bottled there, but produced there. Kentucky whiskey must be produced there. Louisiana whiskey. Do they have Louisiana whiskey distilleries? Yes, they do. They produce it here. Not popular, even in this state. It's around, but that's not a class. Louisiana whiskey is not a class of liquor. Now, could there be some Louisiana law pertaining to that? Probably is, because Louisiana got laws. Louisiana's got more laws than you would think there are molecules in the world. Most of the laws are unknown. Most of the lawmakers, legislators are unaware of the laws. They contradict each other. We have a constitution that's thousands of pages long. No one knows what's in it. It's a fiasco. We need constitutional reform, but it hasn't happened. We have a governor who said he was going to try to get a new constitution, but he got a little pushback and he gave up like that quick. All they had to do was say, we object to some of this, and he gave it up. I was like, well, that's not leadership, you know. But so fact, these are both Kentucky straight bourbon whiskeys. Fact, they are both 80 proof. Fact, they are both sour mash whiskeys. That's not up to debate. My opinion, this part is up to debate. You may have a different preference. I prefer the G&W. I think it's a better product by not much, a little bit. Secondly, now this is a fact, I was able to tell them apart in a blind taste test with some difficulty, but I was able to do it, unlike the previous ones where I couldn't do it. So is G&W an obscure product? Yes. But is it a standout product relative to other whiskeys? I think it is a little bit. So cheers to Laird. You need to get your website fixed. That's not really excusable, but it's your company. Do what you want, you know. But so the clear and present winner is G&W, which might and probably does argue. Look how dark that is. That's dark, and that's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, and that is some dark liquor, and that's a good sign, a really good sign. Would it probably defeat the previous ones in the videos? I don't know about Jim Beam Black 8-year age, which is no longer produced. That could be a problem, but that's been done. I don't remember the outcome. I think it was close, but so if you see G&W, what I recommended, definitely highly recommended. $8, you might want to buy a case. You're going to get 12 bottles, liters. Now, I don't know if liters come in 6-packs, cases, or 12. I don't know. Could be 8. You can get the whole case for less than $100 of good, solid, credible, enjoyable, delicious, well-made, well-crafted Kentucky straight sour mash bourbon whiskey. Now, that is something to talk about. So cheers to G&W, but in reality, Laird Company. I've heard great things about their Applejack, brandy, which I've never had. But if 1,000 people are saying it's awesome and 0% are saying it's bad, must be awesome, you know. But anyway, y'all take care. I'm glad I got it right. That makes me feel a little bit better. And now we're going to go on, and I will for Friday, because this is Thursday. For Friday, I'll bring in another bourbon against Ezra Brooks, and it's called Bird Dog. It's made in Kentucky. It's just called bourbon, not straight bourbon, which is a little strange since there's no age statement. So I'm thinking, what's the story here? But anyway, I think Bird Dog and Ezra Brooks could compete. I don't think that Bird Dog it's not too elaborate. It's not a whole lot to talk about. It's probably why they don't make it anymore. Well, I say they don't make it. They don't have it listed on the website. Got to remember, these companies put out products that they do not list. And it might show up in your area and you'd be like, what is this? So, but they don't list it. And I found it in Walmart, sold it for $10, which is telling me they were trying to dump it. So I think the next taste challenge could clearly be a failure. I probably will not be able to tell them apart. I'll say it's a 50-50 shot. Paid 99 cents less for the bird dog. If I'd have paid full price for that, I'd have been so enraged, because that thing is about as bland as they come. Not a bad product. There's no off or bad flavors about it. I'm not saying that, but it's dull, 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 dull. So I'm glad I paid $10 even plus tax, because if I'd have paid the full price, I'd have been hot. I'd have been angry. But then I probably saw it for full price years ago and I never bought it because I didn't like the price. All right, y'all take care now. Bye-bye.